Nope, you're wrong. Who told you that? That is ridiculous. Do I look like a fool to you? Don't answer that. You really can't follow directions. That's just straight up dumb. What were you thinking? Nope, wrong. You're wrong and I'm right, because I'm always right, always. That means always, always. Okay, everyone has a dark side, and in this video I'm going to go over the dark side of the earth signs and the best way to counterbalance that energy when you're faced with an earth sign who is expressing this part of who they are. You mostly want to focus on the sun sign, moon sign, and rising sign for this one, so no more wasting time. Here are the dark sides of Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Let's go. Okay, now when it comes to the dark side of the zodiac, this just means the parts of our personality that we express when we aren't working from the most authentic version of who we are. Meaning when we aren't making the decisions from the source of our higher selves. When we are making decisions from our ego, out of fear, pettiness, etc. And as human beings, the imperfect creatures that we are, there are for sure going to be moments when we do show this side of our personality. And when it comes to astrology, there are certain traits that the signs in each element have in common. And when it comes to the dark side of the zodiac, this darkness may manifest differently in each sign, but it's rooted in the same personality trait based on the element. With the earth signs, the dark side comes from their capability to be extremely judgmental. Now, this doesn't mean that the other elements aren't judgmental at all. It just means that out of the four elements, when it comes to the earth signs, this is pretty much what you will most likely get when they're operating from their negative traits, also known as the dark side. So when it comes to Taurus, we know Taurus to be loyal, consistent, the true ride or die of the zodiac. But when they feel like you have broken a rule that breaks trust, or mostly when they feel like you have been dishonest to them, or if their needs are not being met and they feel like this is unfair to them, then you get the dark side of Taurus, which is them switching from that sweet, lovable, supportive person in your life that you know and love to someone who will be so stuck on pointing out what you are doing that is wrong and closed-minded to any other perspective as they're pointing this out. When they feel like you're wrong about something, not only are they so stubborn, which is one of their most known negative traits, but they will also shift gears into being completely self-centered, closed-minded, and only seeing things from their perspective because they are so unwilling to even entertain the idea that there are different perspectives that may have just as much validity. Even if Jesus himself came down and said, "Hey Taurus, you might want to open your mind and rethink that," they still aren't having it. This stubbornness and judgmental perspective is also at the root of their tendency to be jealous and possessive because they have their rule book of right and wrong, and instead of looking at things from a situational basis, they just look at things as, oh, you're not doing it the way I consider to be right, so you must be wrong. And because you are wrong, I'm going to make you pay for your wrongdoing and do anything and everything in my power to get you to do things my way, the right way. A Taurus has such a hard time ever seeing that anything that they have done is wrong when they're operating from the dark side, which is also when they're being completely self-centered. So even if you do get an apology out of them at some point during this conflict, it's usually because they just want to get past that situation because they believe that on the other side of that resolution is them getting their way, which is you treating them how they want to be treated again. A Taurus can be so stuck in seeing things from their perspective and their perspective only that even when their lazy streak rears its ugly head, and yes, Tauruses, though they can be very hard workers, can also be very lazy. Even when they're being lazy, they will find some way to justify it. So if you find yourself dealing with a Taurus who has stepped into the dark side, the best thing for you to do is absolutely let them know that you do understand where they're coming from. And don't just BS them and say, yeah, I get it, even if you don't, because they can sniff out a fraud. Truly attempt to put yourself in their shoes and see if you can understand, not necessarily agree, but understand where they're coming from. So let them know you understand and that you want to do what it takes to make them happy, but that you also have needs and you want to make sure that your needs are being met as well. It's about making sure that the goal is meeting in the middle. You won't get anywhere with your Taurus if you try to make them see your point of view without them knowing that you truly truly understand theirs. And by the way, there is that side of Taurus that can be a bit materialistic and judge people based on their material possessions and how much material success they have, but that's not really the dark side. That's more of a, ooh, that's shady. And remember, I'm not saying that all Tauruses are going to behave in the way that I've explained in this video. It's only when they're operating from the dark side. Okay, Virgos. Now, Virgos are the mutable sign of the earth signs, so they are more willing to take suggestions and be in a role where they are not necessarily leading, but when it comes to their opinions, meaning when they have made up their mind about something, they for sure can be just as stubborn as Taurus and Capricorn. And the dark side of Virgo comes out when this stubbornness is compounded by their tendency to focus on what is wrong with something, which just comes off as never being satisfied and being extremely judgmental and hypercritical. And they actually find it entertaining and almost pleasurable when they're getting you worked up while they are attempting to shove their opinion down your throat and explaining to you all of the reasons why your opinion is off base, telling you how you didn't do something the way you should have done it, or even if you just won a gold medal, they would say, but wouldn't it have been better if you won too? If you take them to a nice restaurant, they'll say, wow, this food is pretty good, but it's definitely overpriced. You shouldn't have wasted your money. It also doesn't help at all that when they're operating from their negative traits, they can be very unemotional, so everything can feel calculated and cold, which is interesting because they can be so compassionate and loving when it comes to dealing with animals or dealing with a cause that means a lot to them. But when they're operating from the dark side, one-on-one in relationships, they can be pretty cold, critical, judgmental, and insensitive. They will be pointing out all of these things that are wrong or that they are seemingly dissatisfied with, and you're thinking, then why are we even together if there's so many things that you don't like? But here's the thing. If you're experiencing a Virgo operating from this part of who they are, it is really important to know two extremely crucial things. First, they are so critical with themselves that you have to have compassion for the fact that they are rarely satisfied with anything that they themselves do, which has to be a challenge for them. This is actually one of the reasons that they are constantly pointing out what someone else has done that's imperfect, because it distracts them from focusing on their own imperfection, and it makes them temporarily feel better in the process. The other thing is they aren't seeing this as being negative at all. They actually see it as just being realistic and seeing no need to sugarcoat the truth. They aren't seeing the glass as half full or half empty. They're just seeing it as a glass with some liquid in it, and instead they're just gonna ask, is this filtered water? Because I don't trust tap water. So if you encounter a Virgo that is behaving from their negative traits, it's best to first have compassion for them, because being in a state of discontent is not an easy place to be. And the other thing is to let them know, hey, my Virgo, do you mind not giving me your opinion on things that I personally do, unless of course I'm asking you for it? And if we do find ourselves in a disagreement, do you mind only discussing the solution as opposed to debating who is right and who is wrong? This will at least redirect the conversation to solutions as opposed to giving them more room to hammer home their "this is why you're wrong" point. And remember, I'm not saying that all Virgos do this. It's just Virgos when they are operating from the dark side. Okay, Capricorns. So we know Capricorns to be hardworking, a bit mysterious, responsible, caretaking, and overall difficult to truly get to know, because they do have a tendency to find it hard to trust other people, and they let very few people in. And I know it can be annoying that Capricorns seem to be all about achieving their goals so much of the time that you will feel like their goals matter more than you, or they don't spend enough time with you or give you enough focus. And that's one of those things where it's really not a dark side. That's more like, ooh, that's kind of shady, or it's just annoying. But more intensely, when it comes to the dark side, like all of the earth signs, that darkness will be rooted in being very judgmental. And with Capricorns, you are going to find them to be the most extreme version of this trait. In relationships, they can be possessive and jealous like Taurus, but also critical and a perfectionist like Virgo. So if you're dealing with a Capricorn that is not working from their highest self, you will for sure get someone that can be downright cruel when it comes to them pointing out the choices that you made and how they're wrong and how you should have done something differently. And then even stepping into that annoying parental role where you feel like your mother or your father is scolding you. And the most annoying thing about it all is that the majority of the time, they only do it behind closed doors because they care so much what other people think. And very few Capricorns will admit that. Well, unless their moon is fire. If their moon is Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius, in that case, they really don't care what anybody thinks. But in general, they care so much what other people think that they really don't let loose their inner demons unless they feel that no one one can see it, but the person that they're angry with, or if they're in the presence of the one or two people that they really trust. They hate the idea of anything that they have put their work and energy into backfiring on them in any way. So this is where their controlling nature will come into play, and they will emotionally manipulate you with their judgment in an attempt to control your behavior. And this emotional manipulation can come from a mean place at times. Now, it takes a lot for them to get there because they really do their best to be accepting and supportive and a team player because they know that's the right thing to do, and they pride themselves on being the type of person that does the right thing. But when you cross a specific line, be ready for the Capricorn wrath, where they will take your weaknesses and use them against you big time. They will grandstand and diminish you and your behavior in a way that is vengeful, thinking to themselves that you have messed with the wrong person, and they are going to show you just how bad of a choice you just made by doing so. So in order to counterbalance this energy, first and foremost, it's really just about following the rules that the two of you have established for the relationship. If you treat them the way that they feel they deserve to be treated, you will for sure get the best version of them, which is in your best interest because, like I said, it ain't pretty when they go in the other direction. It really comes down to, are you breaking the rules and standards of the relationship or not? Because that's really the only thing that can really set a Capricorn off. Really, that type of behavior will set all of the earth signs off because their negative traits are rooted in judgment, and they do make it very clear from the beginning what they believe to be right and wrong. So as long as you stay on the same page and consistent with those standards, you can avoid experiencing that ugly side. And remember, I'm not saying all Capricorns are this way. It's just when Capricorns are operating from the dark side. Okay, so there you have it, the dark side of the earth signs and some solutions when it comes to counterbalancing that energy and bringing out the best in them and the relationship. If you have any stories of your experiences with the earth signs and their dark side, please share. I'd love to hear what you've been through and how you dealt with it. I really hope you all enjoyed the information. If you did, hit that like button. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and hang out with me. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video.